You're now live, oke. Kita udah live sekarang sambil menunggu kehadiran Sarah dan juga teman-teman. Kita sambil setup pin dulu. We're gonna do pin, yes? Post it. Oh, hai semua yang udah join, luar biasa. Mungkin sapa-sapa dulu ini.
Iya, kita berhalo-halo.
See, Sarah already there.
Sarah already there.
Iya, ya, oke. Pin ini scroll down, ya. Halo.
Halo semuanya.
No, apa? Again, tadi yang ada, bukan pemain. Oh, dipin dulu. There you go, yes.
Ada Michael, hi Michael.
Ada William Palijama, halo William.
Hello. Hi. Oh, I can't hear you. Let me just switch my volume up.
Yeah. Is this good?
Yes. Isn't it terrible? I'm sorry for all the people who are looking that we start every live and every Zoom call we ever do with my camera's not working, my microphone's not working. It's like the repeat. But thank you so much for inviting me today, my lovely Indonesian friends. It's so good to see you.
Thank you so much.
Actually, the pleasure is ours that you want to do Instagram Live with us. We've been delighted and it's grateful for us. And thank you.
How are you all? How are you all? Are you still in lockdown?
You can see, no?
Three of us. We are happy and we are healthy. But of course, we do have some masks around just in case. Yes.
Yeah.
So we have to follow all those protocols.
Yeah, us too. We are in the UK. We are now allowed to do ceremonies, only ceremonies, and for 30 people. No food, no drink, no hugging, no kissing, social distancing, sanitize the rings, hand washing. It's not really a wedding other than it's a legal way to finally be legally married if that's what you want, but just for 30 guests. So
that's sad.
It's awful. It's awful. And you know, as an industry, we are decimated, really. We're halfway through the wedding season in the UK. There is no prospect for us of any reasonable recovery anytime soon. And it means hundreds of thousands of brides and grooms who thought they would get married this year aren't. And it's, you know, emotionally draining for everybody. We're all on our knees and, you know, it's affecting the mental health of everybody.
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Devastating.
Exactly.
Yes.
I've been reading the articles about the future bride and groom. They're trying to get married and then they have to postpone. Some of them like already spent a lot of their savings, you know, and then suddenly they have to, we cannot work for you. You cannot do the wedding, and it's so sad.
It's so sad, and it's just, you know, it's unprecedented, and it's really hard to know how to react to it. And you'll appreciate, and I know on this call we'll have brides, we'll have grooms, we'll have industry professionals, we'll have parents, we'll have celebrants, and everybody is feeling like they're just in a pressure cooker, and we all need some kind of clarity on when we can move forward. But the good news is we will move forward one day. We will celebrate again. We will have wonderful weddings. And please God, in Indonesia, you keep going with the outrageously opulent, gorgeous weddings that you are so known for, because I'm going to rely on it with my wonderful Indonesian clients.
Exactly. There's no small weddings here, but now we do have small weddings. It's by the government's law. Yeah. So we have to follow those protocols, and we're slowly opening up, and then we are gearing towards the social events and everything. And of course, those two are the planners. So they know what to do. They follow all the rules and regulations from our government. And then we hope that somehow, somewhere along the line, we manage to prepare something. So when they open up, then we are ready for everything.
Yeah, and we're so ready, couples. In fact, my advice is, if you're engaged and you haven't decided what to do yet, just get in here now, book your date for 2021. Let's start working. Let's get ahead of the game, because when we are opened up, we're going to be busy.
Exactly.
Yes, absolutely.
So get in there now.
Yes, yes. Same here. If you're coming to Indonesia And then, especially in Bali for destination wedding, you better book it now. Otherwise, you know, you lose the chance of getting a special price, special package, or anything else that being taken by any other people. So actually today or now is the right moment for it. Okay.
So Sarah, we want to start like questioning you maybe for some.
Go for it.
They don't really,
Go for it.
Know you like maybe like from the very beginning. Okay, is it okay with you?
Yeah, you ask me whatever you like. I'm an open book.
Okay.
Okay, Sarah. Lots of Indonesians in the past years wanted to have destination wedding in Europe. What is the most attractive or favorite places in Europe to do wedding? And from your perspective, what is your advice for Indonesian couple that want to get married in Europe, especially for the area you mentioned above?
So I know the Indonesian clients that I have, you love Italy and you love the south of France and you love Monaco. So we've done a few and we have a few in for next year with Indonesian clients. I enjoy the weddings that your community bring to us. They're very, lots of different age ranges within the celebration, from the young people who are getting married and all their friends right through to the parents. We've started to get familiar with certain social circles. We see the same guests coming again. You love quality, you love luxury, you love opulence, you love floral design. Food is important. The quality of that food is important. You know your wines, your fine wines. So for me, you're the ideal client because you understand and demand at a wedding that it be the creme de la creme. And France and Italy especially are great places to host that. But we're also seeing requests for London, which is fabulous. And London, of course, if you want to marry like a princess in a palace, you can. You know, Kensington Palace is open for weddings. The Tower of London, you can get married there and host a reception there. We've got the river and we've got the beautiful 5-star hotels to do lots of associated events like teas and beautiful soirees. So I think, you know, Europe is a fantastic option for a destination wedding, and whatever you want, Europe has got it. From the oldie worldy cities like historic cities like London, like Florence, like Paris, or we've got the beautiful French Riviera for that kind of Brigitte Bardot 1960s glamorous wedding. And I know usually the clients have had big weddings back in Indonesia, and oftentimes Dina, you will have done the Indonesian side of the wedding and I will have done the European side, and we're beginning to understand that really the way to do this is collaboratively. You're there on the ground with the client in Indonesia, you speak the language, you understand the culture. We're there on the ground in the destination in Europe, negotiating with all the suppliers, making sure everybody gets the right deal. And the industry is very collaborative, and sometimes it's the clients understanding that you don't need to pay for 2 wedding planners and 2 florists and 2 designers. We can work collaboratively, and we're finding increasingly that that's the way to go.
Wow, that's fantastic, Sarah.
And then,
so you mentioning that just now, the Indonesian client, that so you find it's not that difficult to handle the Indonesian clients. It's like they know what they want and you can bring it to give it to them, no?
Every nationality and every culture has its quirks. You like to negotiate hard, and sometimes we need to not make the people we work with, so the suppliers we work with, feel like we're treating them like market traders and that it's all a barter and an exchange like that. That can sometimes be tricky, and that's the way that we discuss that with the client. We appreciate that everybody wants a great deal. You know, you want to get value for money, and you want that however much you're spending. And there's a myth that wealthy people don't value money. Well, Well, they didn't get wealthy by not understanding the value of money. And I think wealthy people, you know, they have a right to be concerned that people might be overcharging them. But it's the job of us as industry professionals to ensure that people are getting value for money and not just look at it as to what people can afford. And I often say to people, you know, it doesn't matter how rich or poor you are, you want value for money. So, and just because you've got the money doesn't mean you want to spend it, or that it would even be sensible to spend it. I use the analogy sometimes, I could afford $100 on a cup of coffee, but only a fool would pay $100 for a cup of coffee. So everything has to be what is right for that part of the market. And that's why it's great to work together with professionals from across the world, so that we can ensure that we're getting that for our clients. Because when I work, you know, if I worked in Bali, for example, I would need to rely on your expertise and your honesty and your integrity to help me understand what good pricing is. I know what it costs here, and I know what it costs in Europe. I don't know what it costs in the US. I don't know what it costs in Bali or Indonesia or India. So we have to rely on these good relationships to ensure that we do deliver value for money for our clients.
Yes.
Wow, that will be one of the reasons that we're doing it now.
Yeah.
Relationship.
Yeah.
To this pandemic, otherwise we wouldn't have done it, Sarah. There's no way we could ever reach you, and then having this kind of live.
Oh, you could have done. But now people, I think now we all realize that the conversations we have privately, you know, when we meet one another, which we do quite regularly. I think I saw you, Dina, at least twice last year, maybe 3 times last year. So we do see one another and we have these conversations privately. There's no reason for us not to have these conversations publicly.
Yes, agree, Sarah. Yes, and then now is the opportunity opens, and we are very excited and we want to explore deeper. And then, of course, there will be a mutual benefit for all of us. And then also our friends out there. I mean, globally, people would want to do collaboration. And then also, it's very easy also, in the sense that everything will be easing up because we have that communication, and then the language barrier or the cultural barrier will be all eased up because of all the people in the industry get together. So, very, very, very much that that's of our intention to have this kind of conversation and discussion, and then not only for us, but for the whole people in the industry, and especially for the Indonesians. So ready to go. So ready to go to Europe, Sarah, and then also in different part of the world. Yes.
Please come to Europe, please.
Especially to London, that's your playground. Of course, you know everything there. And then when we went for the Engage over there, we have discovered so many beautiful venues and opportunities. And of course, the Indonesians love entertainment. They love to celebrate with the friends and families. And not to mention, they love your gifts, Sarah, your souvenirs. Bring them home. They love,
And I have to, so that the thing we're referring to is a luxury wedding summit that my company hosted for the Engage Luxury Wedding Summit ladies who put this summit on across the world 3 times a year, usually, not this year. And we were lucky enough to produce it for them in London. I have to give them and the company that they used, Two Paper Dolls, who did all the gifting, but we did liaise with them over that, and that's something that we always do in our weddings as well. So we like to have gifting, and I know you Indonesians, you love a good high quality gift. So we always do those, welcome notes, helping people understand what's happening, and really giving people a flavour of wherever it is they are. So in London we did it, so it was skewed towards London, but if we're in France, we'll do French. If we're in Italy, we'll do Italian. So I think it's an important part now of the overall experience for guests.
Agree, totally.
Okay. Sarah, to collaboration with Indonesian wedding vendors, according to you, how should the cooperation work out between Indonesian wedding vendors that clients bring and the local wedding vendors?
I don't really understand the question.
It's about to collaborate from the Indonesian wedding vendors like us
Yes.
with the vendors in Europe.
Well, I think that that collaboration can come from the fact that you're on the ground in Indonesia and we're here in Europe. So, for example, if you have a client that comes to you to plan and or design a wedding and you want that to happen in Europe, we can, of course, make that happen. It has to be commercially viable for both of us. And that's a conversation we have together to ensure that the client isn't paying twice, and how that would work. There is absolutely no reason why an Indonesian design could not be executed in Europe. And we can provide the staff to support the teams that you bring over, or we can do it the other way around. A planner who doesn't design could say, well, I'm going to do a lot of the work on the ground with the couple. I would like you to help me with the design, with the execution of the event, with the staffing, help run the food tastings, oversee the event with you. And we do that a lot. We do that a lot with companies from all over the world, not just Indonesia, and other companies help us when we work overseas.
Okay.
The important thing is that the client doesn't pay twice. That's the really important thing.
I don't think they want to pay twice.
Value that you bring, collaborate with the local vendors, right?
Yes.
It brings more for them.
Absolutely, because if you're going to fly a whole team over from Indonesia, that's not going to be cost effective. But we can provide the local staff on the ground with you having the security of working locally on the things that might be more important to you than others.
Yes, maybe just a key person flying in from Indonesia and then going to Europe and then liaise with the local ones from Europe. From
Yes.
your team. And then that way we'll ease the burden, also reduce the stress level of the couples and the parents, because mostly Indonesian they are quite pampered, you know, Sarah. Yeah. They like to be pampered. They never want to read emails. You have to go in WhatsApp or WhatsApp chat.
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
And then also they don't want to read the book or manuals or anything. You know,
they just want to know what they're doing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. They find out, you know, they're too busy.
And they need lots of staff, lots of really good, competent staff around, so that nothing falls by the wayside. And they need, like you say, to be pampered and have a really elevated experience.
It's true, yes. Because all the experience that they want to have, and then they can bring it home, and then they can share with their friends and families. Yeah. And then also they like to bring maybe some of the closest family members, or maybe people from their office, to be a liaison person, and then to know who's who in the families that need it.
Yes, I think that's where we have had issues that could have run smoother, because you know, we're producers, we know what we're doing, and there is a way to do things. There is a way to liaise with a hotel, and just leaving it to the last minute to your staff isn't sensible. So again, it's about a collaborative approach to how these things are managed. And that's a conversation that needs to be had really early on. And it's why it's so valuable when those of us in industry can talk to one another about those cultural nuances, because they're really important, because nobody wants to feel that they're arriving at a destination and the people that they need around them are not counted in what's important, because of course they are. So that's about how we work together really early on, and us as suppliers being flexible in our approach to working. And that comes from both sides, actually, having respect that each side does know what it's talking about. So in that case, how do we get the result that we need?
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, that's really answer our question. Yeah. So.
Yeah.
Okay.
What about any, Sarah? Recently, I just I tuned to your Instagram live that you have a talk with the Prime Minister. How did it went?
I decided to put a plea out to the Prime Minister for some clarity on social media. I was invited to a meeting with ministers, not the Prime Minister, with ministers. We're making some headway there. I was on a meeting this morning with some members of Parliament. I don't have an official role. I am just a wedding planner. And as a wedding planner, I believe I have a 360-degree view. I understand the complexities for both couples and the stresses and the strains for couples. And I understand the huge pressure that we're under as an industry. We face an entire year's lost revenue, and we need to survive, and we need government support to survive, some of which has been forthcoming. But it's a very, as you know, complex industry. Weddings comprises of all kinds of things, from, you know, catering companies who might also work with corporate clients who might own restaurants. We're working with hotels, tourism for all the honeymoons and all the hotel rooms that are booked around a wedding. We're working with the hair and beauty industry for all the hairdressing and makeup that happens around a wedding. Fashion. Then we have the dedicated businesses that work like mine, who only do weddings and social celebrations. And then, of course, all of us, and I'm sure it's the same in Indonesia, we'd rely on an army of freelancers, and they've all got no work at the moment. And it's terrifying to think what's going to happen. And at the same time, we've got to put on happy faces, tell our clients, don't worry, it's all going to be fine. And don't worry, clients, it will be fine. But we've got to hold all this together. And the mental anguish it's almost unbearable now for everyone concerned.
Yeah, actually, it goes the same here. We try, like some of the group of the wedding planners try to talk to the, you know, make their way to the minister, and, you know, you do the same thing. We do like simulation, like wedding simulation daily. Like, are you doing the same thing like that? So that just to tell the government that we can make the wedding like happen now. We do it like this. So according to the health protocol.
Yes.
We
need some flexibility. Yeah, we need some flexibility, and we need some understanding. And we also understand, and we also appreciate, we're in the middle of a global pandemic. Millions of people now have died. We know it's risky. We want to get it right. We don't want to put any lives in jeopardy. We don't want people being sick. And as the pandemic has unfolded, we're beginning to see some patterns emerge. You know, it doesn't look as though we're going to open in the way we would have hoped anytime soon. So we've all got to adapt. And I think clients, and if you are, you know, part of this chat today and you're planning a wedding, if you want to get married in 2020, this year, if you want to get married this year, you're probably going to have to accept a degree of flexibility as to how that's going to be, whether that be your guest numbers, the style of your celebration, the size of it, whether there's social distancing. So there's going to need to be some flexibility, or you're going to need to postpone. And of course, the question we can't answer is, when will this end? So we need to ensure that the client, the customer, has some confidence in what might happen if they need to postpone again. I know there are many people, tens of thousands, who are postponing for a second time. And we are also appreciative. I mean, we've been talking about the luxury sector, the people who have money. Most people don't have money. Most people, it's life savings that go into weddings, and they can't just lose it all. So there needs to be some understanding from the people who demand, you know, that all money is given back if you cancel. We do need to be paid for the work we've been done, even if you cancel, but that has to be fair. So there's big debates around what's fair. And I'm all for saying, I don't care what a contract says. It just needs to be fair.
Yeah.
And we all want to come out of this feeling that we did a good job. And that we're respected as professionals, and that we're respected as an industry, and that we have got our clients' backs. And you and I know, of course we have, you don't work in weddings if you don't care about the client. You know, you can't. It's hard work. It's really, really hard work. And I bet there's some people on here who want to be wedding planners. I know they join these chats. It's not all about attending parties. It's really, really hard work, year in, year out. And when you're resting and you've got time to call us and chat about your weddings, we're not resting. It's 24/7, 365 days of the year. And you can't do it unless you love it and you care about the product and you care about the client. So we need to come out of the other side of this with our reputations intact and the reputation of the industry intact. And that's not going to happen as we want it to, unless the people who govern us understand that one size doesn't fit all. I should be a lobbyist, listen to me.
Well, actually, it's recorded. Maybe.
It's well said, Sarah. And then, yeah, especially for the Indonesian, you know, we're having normal like weddings now, like 30, 40 people. It's sad. It's reducing the numbers of the normal ones, but it's getting there slowly. The hotel is opening up, and also the resort, hopefully, and then also the flight. The airlines and everything. Of course, the airlines fare has been soaring. I mean, the price double, triple. And of course, people are comfortable enough to travel nowadays. But of course, we cannot just sit down and wait without doing nothing. Of course, that's why we have this kind of live chat and also with different people around the world. We have the same situation. And of course, there's no best practice so far. It's been like 3 months now. A lot of the smaller industries in the suppliers and vendors in this industry, especially in Bali or in different part of Indonesia, they all suffered. We see the result, and maybe in about 6 months' time, if there's no changes, you know, you don't know what's going to happen to them. Of course, we are here to help them out also. Some of them has turned their business into different type of, you know, like selling cookies, food, or maybe making some different homemade masks or souvenirs or anything. But of course, Indonesian is known to be very resilient, very they can bounce back very quickly, very creative, very hardworking, like these two here. And of course, we need those people in the industry. Of course, they've always given the extra mile for everything. So, okay, there's one more thing, Sarah. One thing to consider if you're taking Indonesian clients, you cannot say no to them. You know, it's a big taboo. You know, you always have to say, of course, we'll deal with it. We try to give you the best. But of course, you have to give them reasons and blah, blah, blah. But of course, you know, is no, it's a big taboo for them. But,
I will remember that. It's a taboo in our industry anyway. You can't say no.
Exactly. Okay.
Okay, since you mentioned about the pandemic, do you think that you have this like ideas or thoughts about wedding after the pandemic, maybe like post-pandemic, it will be back to normal or?
I don't know. I think people have reflected inwardly about what they want and who's important to them. So it's possible that weddings might be a bit smaller. On the other hand, I know anecdotally that a lot of us are connecting with people we haven't connected with for a long time, and that when we come out of the other side, our social lives might look very different. So I don't know. I do think that there is a global movement toward sustainability, and young people are driving that conversation. And we're seeing what harm we're doing to the planet. And I know over in Indonesia, you've got problems in Jakarta, haven't you? So, you know, you're acutely aware of it. So I wonder if couples will be looking for us to provide more sustainable options for decor, less waste. I don't know. I certainly think European clients will be demanding that. And I know that you're very well known for big, opulent weddings, big builds, a lot of set design, scenic design, a lot of structure within floral arrangements. This requires a lot of consumable products, and there is a lot of waste afterwards. So I don't know how that's going to work. And if a couple want their wedding to be sustainable, they need to understand what is and isn't possible. You can't have a lot of this construction and say you don't want waste. So this is a big conversation. And I think those of us in our industry who don't grasp that and don't listen will not be here in 10 years' time, certainly in the US and certainly in Europe. I can't speak for as we go further east, but certainly I think that's going to be the case. And it's going to cost more because we're going to be fined for it. Eventually we'll be fined for our waste. So if you want that kind of wedding, you're going to pay not only to build it, you're going to have to pay to throw it away as well afterwards. So that needs thinking about.
Yeah, actually Indonesia has been starting not to use plastic like thermocol or styrofoam, not anymore. Now it's been reduced to quite substantial, and then now it's more towards the organic ones and the eco-friendly materials.
Yeah.
And so we're using technology. It's like the video mapping or virtual live streaming, graphics or images or something. So now we're getting towards there, and then also from our own team in Jakarta, we are now collaborating like 2 or 3 decorators will be using the same props in the ballroom or something indoors, and then of course what we can try and make a difference in for the whole look, we are using different flowers, different theme or different ambient lighting. So by doing that, hopefully we can go to the sustainable wedding and then also eco-friendly and then not so much waste. So some of our 5-star hotels has been gearing into that protocols, and then we are following to that protocols.
And that's great.
Yes, because we are more into that efficiency, fast-moving things, and then we don't have to pay so much for something that is going to waste anyway. So
yes, and I see that lots of people are making comments about this conversation. I see the Bali Wedding Association says it's our responsibility to start to educate our clients, and it really is. Just to have the conversation, not impose our values on our clients, if their values aren't the same, but we need to perhaps define what our own individual businesses stand for. I'm certainly very aware here in Britain the effect of this pandemic and the lockdown on the British floral growers. So I'm going to be, if anybody wants to hire me for a small event in the next few weeks or months here in the UK, don't ask me to import anything because I won't. I'd rather not work. If I'm going to work now in these next few weeks and months, I want to support my local industry, and that's going to require some flexibility. And I'm not saying I'm going to do that forever, but I'm certainly going to be thinking about the miles on every single flower that comes into an event, because it doesn't have to be the one that you found on Pinterest. There will be another solution. And some of the most successful and the most beautiful events we've ever done have been where the clients have said to us, oh, we trust you, whatever you like. We present some designs and they say yes. And we say, let us go to market and get best value for money. We know the floor, we know the color scheme. We know what flowers we need for structure, because the locally grown stuff is cheaper. It's going to be. So I'm really thinking about that. I'm thinking about that with food. I'm thinking about it with flowers. I'm thinking about it with everything that comes into the event. At the moment, I need to support the British wedding industry, And that's what I have to do, and I will.
Yeah, totally agree.
Wow.
Great.
I like the idea. I mean, it's like really opening our mind that to do like a small wedding. It's not about, you know, like maybe like you see like what I want this kind of flower, you can import it.
Yeah.
But it's something that if you trust me, then let us create things that, you know,
Yes.
it's not
And
always.
I'm not just saying it. I promise you that those have been the most successful events in terms of the outcome for the client, the happy client, the value for money, the beauty. You know, it's like kind of hiring an architect and saying to an architect, build me this house, without any input from the architect. Like, architects know how to build houses and what work, but if you just take the picture from the home magazine and say, I want this. And it's the same with weddings. And maybe sometimes we go too far on the customer's right and we don't guide them. And it's our job to guide them. And of course, the older you get and the more successful your business and the longer you've been in business, the more confidence you have to say those things. It's the way that you say them. And, you know, ultimately, if the client says, I don't care, I want this flower from Ecuador and you're going to get it for me, that's what we'll do. But I want to feel that that as well as having personal values, that my business has some values that it stands up for and some non-negotiables. And, you know, I'm not going to just work in Britain and just use British suppliers long term. But right now, that's what I have to do. My focus has to be getting us to Christmas, getting us to the end of the year, knowing that I stood up for something and that I put my money where my mouth was. And then next year, 2021, I'm hoping we're returning to normality. We are going to be working in the wonderful places that we work, but I'm going to support those communities as well. You know, if I'm working down on the south of France, I'm going to be using, you know, suppliers from down in the south of France, because I've got a small team. And you're hiring us for our expertise to glue an event together. And we can do that anywhere in the world, keeping local.
Yeah. Is that how you're going to like convince the client, or is just like if the clients want to do it like, you know,
yeah,
like,
if they want to do it a different way, they can do it that way. That's up to them. But also, if you hire me, you can see the quality of our work. It's everywhere. You know, it's all over my website. It's all over our Instagram. You can meet me. You can see if you like me, because the number one thing when you're hiring your wedding team is, do you like each other?
Yes,
if you like each other, it's going to go well. And you're signing up to all kinds of things when you work with a client and they work with you. So, you know, do you like what we stand for? And I think my company, I would say this, but I think my company is very good at interpreting what clients want. And our portfolio is very diverse. We don't have a look. It's very diverse because we respond to the desires of our clients and we want their weddings to reflect who they are.
Yeah.
Yes, I think, Sarah, there's somebody here comment about to develop the sense of community. I think is directly connected to the meaning of wedding, love and warmth of community too. So it will mean success in all senses. I totally agree with
I do.
him. And then also, what's the use of having all like a good wedding planners or good venue or something when there's no warmth, there's no trust, people are not happy using us or something, and then the relationship goes into like friends becoming a family, extended family, and then we repeatedly using our services, and also we know the ups and downs, the life cycle of our clients, and that's the whole thing. That's the whole industry is all about.
Yeah.
And but I think after this pandemic, people will come up with new creativity. They can develop something that we never have thought before, and then of course in this industry, people are resilient and people wanted to come out normal. I mean, yes.
Yeah. Do you think that Indonesian couples will still want to have their destination weddings in Europe?
Oh yes.
I'm here. Come. I'm here.
Go for it. I mean, Sarah, we met a couple of people that they're so ready and they have prepared everything. Everything, Sarah. You would never believe it until you meet them.
Yeah.
They are so ready in every way.
Every way.
I think because one of the reasons why they want to go to Europe or any other destination weddings, because first they want to have something that, you know, a lot more privacy, and then secondly they want to experience something that they never tasted back home, and then of course they want some entertainment or some, again, souvenirs, and then also don't forget, Indonesian love shopping. Okay?
Oh yes, I forgot to say that. Number one, off the plane into the designer outlet. I know.
Yes.
Luxurious brand or big anything. They're coming with big luggages, 3-4 luggages for one person. It's like going to Indian weddings, you know, for 3-4 days. They like to dress up. They have like spare dresses, gowns in the suitcases.
And you're also good looking. Everybody has such great taste at these weddings, and they're like fashion shows. They're like fashion shows. And I sometimes say, my goodness me, the value of the clothing in the room. Like head to toe, Dior, Chanel, Elisab, everything's in the room. I'm like, wow, it's a fashion show.
They dress to kill.
Dress to kill, you're right.
Yes.
There's some question there about there's question there. How do you hold the wedding? Do you want to answer it?
Which one? Which question? There's lots. How do you convince a couple? That one.
To hold
the wedding event during the COVID-19. Ooh. I think that if a couple don't want to go ahead during this, it's not for us to convince them. But I do think we can reassure them that their weddings will be safe. We will work to whatever the guidelines are wherever we're working. We will ensure that they're safe. That requires some cooperation. But if you really can only have a certain number of guests, you need to stick to that and not ask us to let in more. I think that I suppose we all have the Hollywood dream of what a wedding should look like. And the difficulty is you've signed up to that dream. And if you're not going to get it, you might want to postpone.
Yes.
But we are living in a different world. And some of the ceremonies that are going on at the moment, they're wonderful. They're really wonderful and full of meaning. And, you know, the celebrants that we work with, they know they're there really alone at the moment, but the rest of us aren't around them here in the UK. And they'll make it special. They'll make the exchanging of vows very, very special. And you can still have amazing celebrations for small numbers of people. You really can. And they're more intimate. You can talk to everybody. They're not so tiring. So it's not that because you can't have the exact dream that you signed up for, that it's so awful you shouldn't do it. That we're all here to still make it special, and we will.
Okay, Sarah, one question. You just said that about trust, right? Trust is important. And then, have you ever had like experience like you have like your past client that, you know, working with you but with less trust to you? Have you experienced that?
I mean, it happens. It does happen because we're all different. It usually happens. The difficulty with running a high profile company is people might hire me just to say they have and just not be signed up to me and not be signed up. Yeah. So that can sometimes be a problem. And then, you know, perhaps we don't click. But usually someone on the team, you know, we can find someone on the team for whom it's there. You know, I have a good team. We're all human, and sometimes some relationships are better than others in life, and it's the same in business. But I would never allow any sense that there's some conflict to affect a wedding, ever. I would never allow that. I would always ensure that what the customer wanted, what the client wanted, is what happened. And I genuinely want it to be a smooth and happy process for everybody. And, you know, I can take criticism. If somebody says, I'm not happy with this, that's good. And I've always had a rule for me, this works for me, to not be too friendly with my clients before the weddings, because then it's easier to tell me when they're not happy without it being an issue. You know, they can send me an email, say, oh, that meeting yesterday, I wasn't happy with how that went. It's not going to be a big deal. We're going to immediately address the fact that we weren't on the same page about something. So we're all grown up, you know, it's the way it is. Some relationships are easier than others. But I have to say, usually pretty much, I can't think of an instance with Indonesian clients where I haven't found them incredibly warm, friendly, very respectful of one another, of us, of the people that are working there. And yes, there are cultural nuances that perhaps as you get more experience working with a culture that isn't your own and a nationality that isn't your own, you get more comfortable doing it. And that's why, you know, I've reached out to you, Dina, before to say, you know, I've got another client, you know, I just want to ensure I understand something. So it's about understanding.
Exactly. Yeah. Yes. Mm-hmm. Just a quick, Bob Conti is saying about not using floral foam for the sustainable decor.
What do you think about that? What do you think in Indonesia about that?
I mean, for me, actually, we have ways to do it traditionally before they invented the floral foam.
Yes.
We've been doing it with the like wooden box, and then some of the leaves, the stems of the leaves, or some of the plants that we've been cut and used it. Of course, we can use chicken wire, we can use any other materials there is. And I mean, it's quite good. Like, we don't use it. The only thing that we are afraid of is if it's a big arrangement and it cannot hold the weight of water. It would be the problem. But we can always come up with something else. We can use pipes, we can use wire, we can use any other means to hold it. But Bob Conti, thank you so much for giving that insight. And
I would love to see a day where it's banned. I would love to see a day where this horrible product that does so much damage is banned.
yes,
That's what I would like to see. But couples are going to have to compromise sometimes on what that means.
Yeah, as long as we use it in very minimal amount, that should be okay. But something else, like nowadays also it's going to go with the cost, you know. If it's a big arrangement or something, of course we can use lots of leaves to make the structure first, and then we can add on flowers, or maybe some silk flowers, you know. We can repeatedly use them. They are very good quality now. But again, yes, I think that should be one of the issues that we are facing now. And
I realize some people don't know what we're talking about, and what we're talking about is what's sometimes called oasis. It's like the material, it's like a foam, it's sometimes green, and it holds water, and you put the flowers in it. That's what we're talking about.
Floral foam. That's right. That's it. Okay.
I see we have a question here.
From
about changes. Yeah, people changing their mind a lot is not helpful. That happens a lot. Yeah, multiple changes, especially to design and menus, can be problematic. We tend to say, well, you know, we'll give 3 concepts, choose one, and you can have up to 3 changes on those. That's how we tend to work.
We've been questioning you a lot of things. Do you have any questions for us?
Do I have any questions for you? Yeah. When do you think confidence will be restored for people to actually go ahead and start booking these destination weddings here in Europe?
I think they will start like for me, for us personally, I think it will be you know, they start looking by now, and then they will go like here, I think, by 2021.
Because what I should tell you is the venues are getting booked up really fast, especially Italy, France, London. They're getting booked up really fast. So I would hazard a guess all the good dates have already gone for the popular destinations like Como, the Côte d'Azur, Provence, London. I think the dates are nearly gone now for 2021 if you have to have a weekend.
Wow. Then we have to tell them to rush in, no?
Yes.
Well, you really need to get a move on, at least book the venue and the team that you want to work with, because we're going to have all the weddings that were due to happen this year postponed.
Yeah, postponed to
next year.
All those that were booked, you know, right up to now, postponed to next year. And then the people who are already planning for next year. So that leaves all the people who either haven't started planning or who are postponing from now this year. So hopefully we're going to be busy, and but we need to get a head start. We need to get a head start.
Yes. And then do you suggest that booking 2 or 3 venues and also everything like dates and something, so there is not only a single date? Would it be...
Venues won't hold dates for you. Like, they used to hold them for a couple of weeks. They're now not doing that. They're now not doing that. They're just saying it's first come, first served. Many venues.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly that.
Okay, there is one question from our friend. Hello, Inayat. Inayat Kupchandani is one of the...
no, it's just making a statement.
Oh, statement?
Yeah.
But we need to show the clients how we will do it and
say. Absolutely. That's such a good comment. And of course, we take it for granted that people know that we will always work within guidelines. We need to reiterating, if you're getting married anytime soon, we will make sure that it's safe. We will work to the operational guidelines. We won't try and skirt around them. We all need to ensure that we comply because our insurance depends on it. But, you know, if assessments have been made that it's safe to go ahead and get married and you want to, and you're happy to work within the confines given, we can still give you amazing and safe weddings. We really can.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Sarah, how long can you hold the dates after we giving you a kind of down payment or deposit? How long normally they hold the date for you?
So for me, as soon as we've contracted with a client, we will hold the dates that they have asked for. And we'll immediately start looking for a venue, so that within within 3 to 4 weeks we've secured the venue for them, and within that we can hold venues for a couple of weeks while we work out what we want to do. So for me, the process just starts with, do you want to work with me? If you want to work with me, great, let's start, and let's travel the journey together from the very beginning all the way through, so that we're involved in all the decisions with you. I mean, some people come to us already knowing where they want to get married and the actual venue. Some people have often booked that venue already, especially Indonesians, actually. So we're told, I've booked this venue on this date, are you available? It's simple, I'm either available or I'm not. If I am and we can make the contract work, fantastic. And I usually give 2 weeks from the moment we give you a contract proposal, we'll give you 14 days to sign and pay a deposit. If we have another inquiry for the same date, we might have to say, we have another inquiry, we'll need to know in, say, 5 days, and we'll tell that other client, someone else has first option and you have second option.
Okay.
Doesn't happen that, you'd be surprised actually, it doesn't happen that often. I don't do that many events because we work at the very top end of the industry. Our events are very complex, multi-day celebrations, usually with very large budgets. So each event requires the time of my very small team and me. There's only one of me, and I'm aware that everybody would like me to be involved in the wedding planning and in the production of the event. So there's only one of me. So that means there's only so many weddings I can do. So we tend to limit that to a set number of clients on our books at any one time. And that means we can be quite flexible on dates.
Yes. Great. Sarah, just one last question to you. Let's say people, you know how the Indonesian client tend to change their mind, change their concept or the design. And
yes, they do.
how do you handle them? And then also,
not very well. No, I do. In the past, I found it incredibly frustrating, and I'm not sure why it is. You're not the only culture that does that, and sometimes we just have to say, it's, you know, it's complex, and what don't you like about something? And the problem is the poor couple. There's so much choice and influence out there. And every time you open up Instagram, you're given another idea. So it's almost like people are nervous to commit to the idea that they have. So it's about us really saying to a couple, you know, the work's done now. And if you want to change your mind again, you can, but there's a cost implication. There's a cost implication. So it's as simple as that. That usually concentrates the mind.
okay, good, very good.
So
I guess it comes to an end. The time is about to end. Yeah, we still have a lot of things to talk to say. It's been great. It's been so. It's been enjoying moment that we have chat with you, and it's like, you know,
learning something. So
I see somebody's asking about our event school, our event planning courses, which is called EPIC. At the moment, I'm nervous to open registration for our February date because of all the travel restrictions. I'm nervous to take it because what happens if you book a flight and then it has to be cancelled because there's a second wave? So I'm just sitting on it at the moment. I hope we'll do another course in February, but we'll open it quite late. You can just email us, weddings@sarahhayward.com. weddings@sarahhayward.com. Email that and somebody will come back to you and we'll get your name on a waiting list. And thanks for asking that question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe we will meet you face to face in person.
I hope so. Soon. I hope so.
And then we never get a chance, only Budina, right?
Yeah.
it's just, this is how it is. But we are looking forward to be working with you, Sarah, either going to Europe or coming to Indonesia.
yes,
I want to come to Bali. I want to plan a wedding in Bali. I never have. Nobody's ever asked me for Bali.
Yes.
I want to come and plan a wedding in Bali.
Yes,
Yes.
beautiful
Bali or
place.
London.
Yes, beautiful place. You should come. You should come. You're most welcome to come.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, thanks so much for inviting me today. And thank you to all the lovely people who've joined. Some familiar faces there I see. Hello. Thank you so much. I'm really honored that you asked me.
Okay.
Yes, thank you so much, Sarah.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Save.
Direkam. Bye.
Di save, Jeng.
Tinggal di end. Oke guys, thank you so much ya. We still have 1 minute. Terima kasih buat yang udah bergabung semua.
Yes. Question apapun pertanyaannya,
Seru banget ya Bu Dina ya.
feedback ataupun input kita terima dengan senang hati. Maaf saja kalau ada salah kata.
Maaf. Ada yang kurang.
kurang.
Ini meja cantik ini didekor oleh Ibu Dina dan suasana meeting hari ini Instagram saya jadi cantik obral Kenisa hari ini ya. Karena Ibu Dina, seorang Ibu Dina, maestro.
Foto dulu nih.
Foto dulu. Thank you so much for joining us. Hopefully kita bisa.
Stanley, kita udah bisa ke Italia, Stanley.
Udah bisa foto, sudah bisa.
Karena udah bisa.
Oke.
Thank
Oke,
you.
itu aja. Terima kasih.
Bye.
Bye. End video. Dan itu ya. Itu